Okay, we're starting to get some people in here. We're going to go ahead and get started. I'm Jared Smith, Carolina Weather Group. We're here because of a line of severe thunderstorms that is moving across the upstate of South Carolina this evening. Eventually, we'll clear to the coast tonight, but right now, what we're focused on is a tornado warning that continues for the next few minutes for Lawrence, Spartanburg, and Union counties in South Carolina. So I'm going to kind of zoom in on this here, and it's not the most well-defined thing. This is one of those nights where uh, we've got basically a line of thunderstorms moving through, and every once in a while, along the leading edge of the line, we're going to get these. We might get a spin-up tornado. Could go very quickly, and go away just as fast. So let's see. So I'm taking a look at a couple sources of radar here, but when we're looking at the velocities here, I'm going to tweak the storm motions, and not the most clear thing in the world, definitely not the clearest tornado warning that you'll ever see, but right here is where we expect to see the potential for rotation. Let me make a couple tweaks here real quick to the audio. And let's do that. Okay, you should be able to hear that a little bit better now that we're on the right mic. But here is where we think a circulation is, and again, this is kind of getting into Union County now in South Carolina, and you can see that this little swirl right here. The outbounds are weak, but the inbounds are decent. So if there's going to be anything here, that is where we're going to look. Again, this goes until about 7:45. And again, this is we've got a question. This is the southern Spartanburg County, so this does not include the city of Spartanburg. This does not include, in fact, the city of Spartanburg. I think your severe weather threat is actually just about over as the line continues to push east, and the tornado warning is off the board. But I'm going to hang here for a little bit because I want to keep an eye on this somewhat closely here. I'm going to kind of looking at some reports. I'll drag that over here so I can keep you on that. Yeah, we just looking at any. We have a report of road trees down on the road in Lyman, and then yeah, trees down in one lane of US 221 south of Innery, and light tree debris in the road. So certainly this has caused some damage. But it's hard to say whether that's a tornado or if that is due to straight line winds. And straight line winds are going to be the main issue here. But it is worth pointing out, when we zoom out here, we do have a tornado watch in effect. Generally for much of, let me go to there and let me go to there. That guy right there. So here's your tornado watch. This is in effect until let me get the effective time real quick. Just make sure we get that. It goes until 8 o'clock, and I'm not sure if they're going to extend this too much further, but there certainly appears to continue to be the risk. And I've not seen anything from the Weather Service as far as their deliberations on if they're going to extend this in time. Sometimes they will extend this in time there, but we'll go ahead and take that down for now. So here's tornado watch. Again, this goes until 8. It's very possible that we could see a local extension in time here. But right now, the good news is that there's no tornado warnings currently on the board. Go back to the analyst here, and we can see kind of what we're talking about here. So again, we have a very large, I'm going to take the radar data off for a second. We have a new severe thunderstorm warning, and this one goes all the way out to York and bordering on Lancaster County here. So Chester, Rock Hill, York, Union, Whitmire, Lawrence, there's a severe thunderstorm warning. And then again, put the radar data back on. This line segment right here, which we recently just had a tornado warning with it, and the Weather Service has opted not to extend that warning downstream. But we'll keep an eye on it, because again, this is the kind of thing where you could see this kick up rather quickly. And with very little warning. So we're going to keep an eye on this for a little bit longer here as we see again, some very heavy rainfall. Not really a whole lot of lightning. with this. Again, we're going to start running into we're going to start losing we're losing the heating of the day. We're going to be running into a little bit more stable air, and we're going to also eventually the parent low is going to continue to move to the northeast, and that is going to kind of take away some of that really good mechanical lift, that strong forcing that will help sustain these thunderstorms. That will be diminishing as well over time. So again, if you're just joining us, we jumped on for a few minutes to talk about a tornado warning. However, I'm going to hang here as we still have a fairly decent line of thunderstorms moving across the upstate right now. Moving into it'll be moving into the Midlands here soon. And take that little wider view from the GSP radar. You can see the line of thunderstorms, easily stretching from Eatonton to Washington to Greenwood up into Shelby, and this will be getting into the Charlotte metro here pretty soon. So that'll be something that we're going to keep an eye on closely for the next little bit. Let me get the. I'm pulling up over here. I'm also pulling up a couple products that'll help me understand what's happening here, and I think I just hit the wrong button, so we're just gonna have to wait for that. But over here again, really kind of the danger zone right now, Lawrence to Union, just south of Gaffney. This is approaching York and Rock Hill, and again, the main concern here is 60-mile-an-hour winds. But we still have, every once in a while we see these little kinks in the line, and if that should tighten back up again, don't be surprised if the National Weather Service issues a new tornado warning downstream. So that'll be something that we're going to need to keep a close eye on. It looks like the strongest line segment right now is moving into Union at this point. So again, if you're in Union here, you have winds at the south of 15 gusting to 24, and that could kick up very much so here in the next few minutes. Going up in space here, we can see that the winds off the deck are 60, 70, 80 miles an hour. So it's not going to take a whole lot of convection. Basically, if you think about it, when you boil water, any of those bubbles, it's kind of and the atmosphere will bubble, and sometimes that mixing that can help drag some of those stronger winds down, and that's why we have the severe thunderstorm warning. And every once in a while, you can even get there's a good enough wind shear for sure to kick up a little bit more in the way of severe weather. Further out, while we've got everybody here again, the tornado watch is. Again, we have this tornado watch that is technically going until 8 o'clock. We've not seen any updates from the Weather Service as far as whether this is going to stick around or not. Again, they have a few minutes to make that decision. They can elect to do a local extension in time, but we're not sure if that is going to necessarily take place just yet. Let me go to the convective outlook real quick, just so you all can see the. This is kind of what we're looking for here. So this is today's convective outlook, and again, this enhanced risk in the red here. That is where the threat for severe weather was maximized. As we go further east with time, the severe weather threat diminishes. So we have a slight risk across. Really from Charlotte just to west of Greensboro, just west of Columbia and Augusta here. And then we get to a marginal risk for the rest of the night across the rest of the state, across the rest of North Carolina and South Carolina. So that's where, and again, we do expect this severe weather threat to diminish. However, that being said, the wind fields are actually quite impressive. We'll go back to the satellite radar composite here, and I'm gonna layer on some observations. And let's get that. And bringing these observations, kind of just, looking around right here in Charleston, for example, where I am, the wind's been gusting recently to 33 miles an hour. We've been seeing pretty decent gusts for the last little bit. Wind advisories are out across much of the land areas here until midnight, as the wind fields with this are quite potent. We'll go to gusts here, and you can start to see some of those, 25, 30 knot gusts easily feeding into this system. So, and even when and if when you go further north, when we take it even further out, there's your storm system. There's your low. Your low is up in Cincinnati now, and again, this is going to continue to move northeast with time, starting to spread some snow back into Detroit and just missed Chicago. Had a friend who was disappointed about that. Maybe even a little bit of snow in New York with some mixing and even some freezing rain across central Pennsylvania. Um, but again, this is this trailing cold front. You'll see it's getting weaker over time, and we don't expect this to be a major player in the weather. We may have some rain tonight as it gets closer to the coast, but again, we're not expecting any major severe weather issues. Um, Always possible. We could see a damaging wind gust or two, tree down, power line down, things like that as we get further east with time. But we are not expecting widespread severe weather issues. So again, we'll zoom in here. And again, this tornado watch, again, we're starting to see the line of thunderstorms kind of exit the tornado watch area. And it's not clear if they're going to reissue downstream. Let me see if there's been a discussion about this. And so that reading that, and then just going to take a quick read. It's very possible they may not extend this. Again, with the severe weather threat beginning to diminish with eastward extent, loss of daytime heating, it's very possible that we may be okay as far as this tornado watch being extended in time. So we're going to keep an eye on that as we go. But again, zooming back out, kind of showing you all the big picture here. You can see this kind of first line of thunderstorms, and then you have around the low itself. And there was certainly some significant rainfall and significant issues back into Kentucky. Numerous tornado warnings today. Again, it was a very busy day. This is quite a dynamic system. The winds with it are very strong, and it is continuing to lift out into Ohio, into the Great Lakes here, and this is going to depart. First cold front will swing through. It'll should be actually a pretty decent day for a lot of us tomorrow, but we got to get through this first. So again, we have a couple severe thunderstorm warnings. We have about 3 severe thunderstorm warnings along the line here. We have this one that is this Mondo one that is out in front of this this line of storms, and keep in mind there's not any warning polygon down here, but it's possible that the Weather Service in Columbia will fill that gap fairly soon. And then just recently, a new severe thunderstorm warning near Greensboro over Winston-Salem right now. And again, this is going to be for 60-mile-an-hour winds. There's also the potential for nickel-size hail with this storm. Again, this is all moving very quickly, moving very, very quickly east at 70. So these are packing a punch, just with forward motion. And so definitely the momentum is going to be there to potentially bring down some dangerous, strong winds, some strong gusty winds. For those of you, who were in the Carolinas tonight, if not the worst idea to have a flashlight nearby tonight, just because of the wind, not even necessarily because of storms, but because of the wind. The wind itself may be problematic, and so we're going to want folks to take those precautions accordingly. And again, the strongest storms won't last for very long. As you saw, moving east at 70, it's not going to give a lot of time for that. It's going to move through pretty fast. You're going to get potentially some heavy rain, maybe some hail, but overall, and that straight line gusty wind. So again, there's going to be some line segments here that spin up and spin down on occasion here. Taking a look back at I'm going to go back to the GSP radar here. Take a look at this. So again, we have these broken line segments here, and again, the radar view is kind of a mess. What's interesting is that you can see in front of it some evidence of an inversion developing again, and what that inversion does is basically at night when the surface cools faster than the air above it, and so So here's your surface. Here's the air above it. The air above it is going to be warmer than at the surface, and that is a more stable setup. So what could happen here? And again, with the wind fields and the shear the way it is, we still could draw some wind gusts down through that. But that inversion can help to elevate these thunderstorms a little bit more. And this is as modeled. This is what we are expecting to happen. And that will kind of reduce the amount of instability that these can tap into, and accordingly, the severe threat begins to wane. But again, right now we do have severe thunderstorm warnings stretching from Lawrence to Union, over to Chester, York, into Rock Hill, Fort Mill, Cornwall, McConnells. For this line of storms that's moving on by right now, I wouldn't be surprised to see something get issued maybe a little bit further north if this continues. If this continues to develop here near Clover, maybe Gastonia. Hard to say. Let me do the storm relative here, and yep. And we have a new warning that is now out, and this is going to be for Greenwood. So we're going to go down here for Greenwood here, and this hasn't populated yet. The Weather Service is noting that this is going to have this has a tornado possible tag. We have a not your typical broad area of rotation, not your textbook look, but there is certainly something trying to spin here a little bit over a very broad area over Greenwood. And again, as we mentioned before, these storms can develop tornadoes very quickly, and then they lift back up, and then that's it. So these come very quickly, so we're going to have to watch that very closely. So Greenwood 96, new severe thunderstorm warning now out. This includes Epworth, Cross Hill, a lot of US 221, US 225 around 221, 221 state from Bradley up towards let me see if I can get to Waterloo. So again, this is all pushing east very quickly. They have this one moving east. They have this segment moving east at 50. 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts are the main concern. And again, there is also the risk for a brief spin-up tornado with this. So we're going to keep an eye on that as we go. So we have a question about Myrtle Beach. Do you think this will make it to Myrtle Beach? I think you're going to see some rain tonight. It's certainly going to be windy. It's certainly windy there now. But we're not expecting and if this can hold up, we could see a damaging wind gust or two, but we're not expecting a tornado threat to extend too much further east than this, honestly. Once we get this line of storms into the Midlands, we're probably in pretty good shape as far as severe weather goes. And again, in fact, we have a new, the outlook is just updated. So we'll take a peek at that. And again, the outlook is, a tool for meteorologists to kind of look at, but we have, but the new outlook has come in, and again, the risk for the marginal risk has been narrowly confined from Greensboro to Charlotte to Columbia to Augusta. And again, this owes to weakening of the line, losing daytime heating, losing that instability. So again, that's not to say that we can't get events from this, because as we know here in the Carolinas, marginal days can be very busy. But overall, this kind of confirms the overall forecast thinking. What we've been thinking for days at this point is that this would be trending downward as we get closer to the coast. So again, the severe weather threat is much lower when you get towards coastal South Carolina, including Myrtle Beach. So again, we're keeping an eye on that. We'll be monitoring this closely for the next little bit. Again, while we have this severe thunderstorm warning with the tornado possible tag, I want to keep it kind of close here, because again, this could spin up at any time. And right now, the area of concern is over Greenwood. And again, this is not your typical tight couplet rotation. Certainly not seeing any sign of that. But this kind of broad area, and again, with these QLCS storms, a quasi-linear convective system, with these kinds of squall lines, we can see things tighten up very fast. And so that's why the Weather Service is watching this one very closely. So again, if you're in 96, I would definitely, in particular, I'd be keeping an eye on this. This go down Highway 34. Beautiful drive, by the way. I actually really love Highway 34. in the upstate. Gorgeous drive, but not tonight. It's going to be a little bit gnarly going from Greenwood to 96 down into eventually Newberry, Silver Street, Prosperity, and those locations. Here is again, this line of thunderstorms is moving east at a pretty good clip. Some segments moving east at 50, some segments moving east at 70. When you get up into North Carolina in particular, where you're a little bit closer to that, a little bit closer to the upper low, a little bit closer to the jet streak, seeing some stronger storm motions here. We have a question about, any severe weather forecasted anytime soon after this one. Nothing that we're really, nothing we're hanging our hat on. We don't have any, there's no like day 5, day 6 areas outlined in our neck of the woods. A cool down is coming. And when you have this kind of heat and you have, what we've had over time, you always do get suspicious that maybe, there could be a little something with that. But right now, this is the only game in town. I-26 East, mile marker 46, a tree is down. So again, we're getting reports of down trees with this line. And if I zoom in close enough, I should be able to get to the mile markers here. So again, this is I-26 44 right here. So again, there's trees were down here. Here's exit 44, and there were certainly. It sounds like there were certainly some trees down in the roadway there as this line segment came through. Again, there's a severe thunderstorm warning on this line segment. Pretty wide. So we have severe thunderstorm warnings now stretching roughly from south of Greenwood over towards Epworth, Verdery, approaching 96, stretching up through Lawrence into Whitmire. Union, if you're in the Union, watching us from there, somebody there. The threat for severe weather is ending quickly, passing to your east at this point, although we're still seeing some gusty winds there. Gust of 43 miles an hour recently at the Union County Airport at Troy Shelton Field. So again, some gusty winds being observed. We've had numerous reports of trees down, especially with this line segment that just came through. So that'll be something that we're going to keep an eye on for our friends in Chester and Rock Hill and New York, and eventually Great Falls, Lancaster, and Gastonia into Charlotte. So again, let's take a look at the Charlotte metro real quick. And we have a segment. This is not warned. This part of the line is not necessarily warned, but certainly some heavy rain right now, very likely ongoing in Gastonia. It'll be interesting to see what kind of observations we get out of there as far as what the airport there is seeing. I'm also working behind the scenes to get the Charlotte terminal Doppler up so we can kind of peek a little bit closer into this. We can get a good look at the wind shear along the line. And so far, not really seeing anything that is making me nervous. But we'll keep an eye on that. And that's just the Weather Service in Greenville, Spartanburg is doing for this area, as well as along with the Weather Service in Columbia. The tornado watch has been allowed to expire. So that is something, the tornado watch is over. The overall risk for severe weather is diminishing. And so that is obviously very good news, but there are still a couple warnings out here that we're going to need to take into account. And that is, and that's something that we're going to continue to watch here over the next little bit. But again, towards Gastonia, definitely some gusty winds, some heavy rain. Looking at the wind fields here, we're seeing 70 miles an hour, off the deck, about 3,000 feet up. That's pretty good. And again, it's not going to take a whole lot to mix some of that down to the ground. So if we see any uptick in these thunderstorms in the next little bit, we could see additional warnings issued into the Charlotte metro. But again, we'll wait for the Weather Service to make that call as the storms approach. Moving through Gastonia right now, Gaston County towards Mount Holly. This will be into Mecklenburg fairly soon. We're about ready to approach the 485 loop, actually, with some of this. So again, kind of rough go right now. 85, I-85, Highway 74 into Charlotte. It's going to be a little bit of a bump, kind of a bumpy drive if that is in your neck of the woods. Going back down, let's just go down the line here. And again, we have the potential for strong winds. And again, every once in a while, we're seeing these little notches show up in the line here, these little notches in velocity of this little surge here of basically outbounds, not the strongest outbounds per se. That's storm relative though. This little surge of outbounds here. We could see some. That's where we could see some of that localized wind damage. Um, and every once in a while, you can get something that spins up very quickly on this leading edge, and that's something that we're keeping a close eye on. We're keeping a close eye on one of those areas in Greenwood, and this actually may be looking a little bit tighter. So we'll need to keep an eye on that again. Spin up, spin down very quickly, and that could cause an issue with severe weather-wise. Right now over Cross Hill, this is certainly this may be worth monitoring. It's not the most convincing signature in reflectivity, but there certainly seems to be a little bit of wind shear right here, kind of elongated. Go to the normalized rotation product, and yeah, we have a couple spots here that are certainly suspicious, especially going into 96. And again, this is very elongated, but the product I'm showing right here is called normalized rotation. Normalized rotation is a way for me to kind of cut through the noise and show you where the spin is in the atmosphere. And we have, a pretty significant NROT here. And again, I caveat that with, there's a lot of ground clutter here too, but no, there might be a little notch trying to develop here near 96. So we'll see. We're going to keep an eye on that. And it looks like the Weather Service for their part is doing the same, looking towards Lockhart as well. So I'm going to make a couple adjustmts here. Over on the other screen that you can't see, I'm actually running the same software that the National Weather Service runs, the AWIPS software. So I have a pretty good view into some of the data that they're using, some of the mesoanalysis data, everything there, and that's something that we got that a lot of people don't. So you're watching Carolina Weather Group tonight, and that is so that's a very much a package deal here. So we're going to wait for that to load up right now. But again, we are watching a couple areas now starting to try and tighten up. One right around 96, one south of Cross Hill. So we'll see what Greenville does. We'll see what GSP does here. I am certainly very, very, very interested in what they're going to do here. As we see a couple notches in the line there, try to go up. And again, this area near Lockhart, this is also this area that we were just talking about, actually, that the Weather Service is paying particularly close attention to. When we take the forward motion out of it, we just show the rotation within the storm. You certainly can see that little surge right here, and these inbounds beginning to curve around a little bit. So again, Chester County, if you're in the town of Chester, keep an eye on this. No form of warning on it yet, but that's certainly something that we're going to want to keep an eye on. Again, Chester, Cornwall, basically much of US 321 between York and Cornwall, all that whole area under a severe thunderstorm warning until where did it go? Where did the until go? 8:45. There it is. It was just staring me in the face. So we'll keep an eye on that. So let me get so this bundle is continuing to load here. That's going to take a minute here. Let me get taking a look at a couple things on y'all's behalf. So we have a question about in Lancaster County, the Van Wyck. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Subdivision here, the Van Wyck neighborhood near Catawba, the town of Catawba, a little bit east of Rock Hill, across the river here, and it looks like that. It looks like I don't have one of those like storm tracking things that there's patents and crazy stuff on that, but make it a little bit more inaccessible to folks like us. But I would say probably in the next hour and a half or so, probably within the hour, I think is a good bet. You may actually already see some showers trying to develop there. Raleigh and Durham, this area here, that's a really good question. Let me go to the I'll go to the regional for that one. And again, one thing to note with Raleigh, and we have a new severe thunderstorm warning that's just gone up for the Charlotte metro. So we're going to get to that here in just a second. Um, brand new severe thunderstorm warning, including the Charlotte metro area. So we'll get that shortly. But again, over here in Raleigh, I think you got about 2 or 3 hours or so before you got some the heavier rain beginning to move in. And again, we do expect a gradual weakening of this as this continues to push eastward with time. Parent low moving to the northeast away from this. That's gonna blunt how much mechanical lift we can get to maintain these storms. Instability is going to be waning. We're going to be losing daytime heating. We're losing it as we speak. So again, we do expect that this is going to weaken. However, we do now have this new severe thunderstorm warning for Charlotte. And I'm going to go to what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the terminal Doppler, and we'll talk about this here. So again, let me go. Where did you go? There we go. All right, that'll take a second to come up, but again, here's the terminal Doppler right now. You can see this thin but the mighty line of storms here approaching the Charlotte metro area right now. Again, we're looking at the radar from the airport here, TCLT, the terminal Doppler out of the Charlotte Douglas International Airport, designed for the Charlotte Douglas International Airport, I should say. And again, I'm getting a look at a bunch of different sources of data here right now, just to understand kind of the situation that we have in front of us. And I'm going to just bring up a couple of these parameters here. And again, this is stuff that's happening off the screen. I wish I could share this with you. It's really cool, but right now what we're seeing here is, generally speaking, that these storms are just not going to be in a favorable configuration for severe weather for too much longer. It certainly doesn't appear that the environment that they're moving into as they get further east is going to be less favorable. But again, this warning goes until 9:15. This includes Charlotte, Matthews, Concord, Huntersville, Gastonia. You're in it, but it's basically past you at this point. Harrisburg, Hickory Grove, Mint Hill. And again, this is about 20-30 minutes out from the main loop, the 485 loop at Charlotte. So again, we're going to keep an eye on this, but it's moving right down 29, 85 right now. We have gusts to southerly winds at the airport. Charlotte Douglas, south of 22, gusting to 33, pretty standard. It's been kind of the way it's been. Concord, south-southwest at 15, gusting to 34. And again, we'll be keeping an eye on these observations as this line of storms gets closer. Some heavy rain happening here. Hail is not really a thing. There may be some small hail, perhaps, but not something that we're concerned about. And again, what's crazy about this line is that it's moving northeast at 75 miles an hour. So there's a really haul in the mail here for us this evening. I don't have any updates from the weather service as far as the stuff further south. Let's go ahead and go back to the the radar analyst here. Go into the high res here, and again we have the surge right here. This area that's approaching Chester here. It's kind of broad. Again, not looking terribly impressive, especially as we cut away from the noise and we go right into the amount of spin that's here, the normalized rotation, as is called in this product. And again, not the strongest in the world there. We still have a pretty decent, a good line of wind shear, really stretching from Lincolnton, Georgia through McCormick, but really maximizing itself right now. It's just past 96 and approaching Chapels here. It is, it looks pretty good as far as NROT. When we see this NROT go 1 and higher, that's where you start getting the reds involved here. When you see it going about 1 or higher, that's when I'm going to take a little bit more notice. That's when we're going to keep a closer eye on this. And this is actually moving out of the warning, because again, we are now getting into the Columbia. We're getting into Columbia's territory here. So Columbia is obviously coordinating with them, but they are, and they're watching it closely for sure. And But right now they've gone with a special weather statement for that. There's not any indication that they're going to issue a warning just yet, but that could change, and we'll need to keep a close eye on that. So again, um, moving back up into Chester, New York, this continues now until 8:45. If you're in the town of Union, you're good. At this point, it's to the east of you. Greenwood, it's almost over. Cross Hill, it's almost over. Leading edge of this line, and I'll tell you what, I'm looking at this signature right here that's going to be getting into that's crossing into Newberry County now, and I know Columbia is looking at it too, and I think that's going to be something that's going to be definitely bear watching. Got a couple kinks in the line here that are very much worth watching. Got one here, got this one here. This is the one that's been pinging the most on this normalized rotation product, and you can see a little bit of an inflow notch developing. So if you're in Newberry County, Chapel, Silver Street, Newberry, hold tight because this could get interesting here if this persists. So again, no warning, no formal warning on this just yet, but this is certainly something that we're going to need to keep an eye on. And again, this is exiting the warning that Greenville-Spartanburg issued, and we're now getting into Columbia's territory. So we're watching Columbia. We're watching all the Weather Service offices as we do, but we are continuing to monitor here to see what this particular kink in the line does. And there's a couple spots where this is trying to go. Near Lockhart, Lowry's, Chester here. It's been trying. This is a continuation of an earlier tornado warn circulation that did at least cause some tree damage. We're not sure if this is going to be able to sustain itself, but that being said, I mean, it does have that, it's kind of a pretty big mismatch here. Some heavy rain, maybe some hail falling there. And again, now we have severe thunderstorm warnings extending all the way up into Charlotte metro area, Charlotte up to Kannapolis, Concord, until 9:15. And then again, this is all moving extraordinarily fast, 75 miles an hour. These are mean in business tonight as far as the forward motion. But the good news is that means that they arrive quickly and then they're over quickly, and that's we like that generally with storms. So the severe thunderstorm warning that was for Greenwood and Cross Hill, that's going to be canceled. That's going to go. So this warning is gone because again, it is the severe thunderstorm is now exiting there, and then. We should see some of this warning trim back here in a few minutes as well around Whitmire. Again, Columbia's hanging in there. They haven't made the call just yet on whether to extend the warnings eastward. And again, we're going to let them make that call. They're monitoring it closely. Again, we have a connection with the Weather Service. We have a chat line with them, and they have been very communicative as always tonight on their intentions as far as what are they thinking, and they give us that information as they have time, and we are so deeply appreciative of it for sure. So again, we have this little area rotation now approaching Silver Street, and it's weakened. We've seen this kind of come up and come down over the last few scans, so I'm kind of just jumping across here, and there's a little something there. I mean, there certainly has been some shifting of winds along the line, but that does not mean that there is a tornado. That does not mean that. We see this a lot with these kinds of lines. You typically wind shear is essentially a change of speed and direction with height, and that is, and that's just kind of what we're seeing here along the line. Some of this is not abnormal. However, we do want to watch in case one of these areas does try to strengthen up, does try to spin up, but we also don't want to be doing we're not in the business of wanting to do false alarms either. So a lot of stuff to balance when talking about the warning process. So again, right now we have the severe thunderstorm warnings. I suspect that these are going to go pretty soon, stretching from Joanna, South Carolina through Whitmire, up towards Rock Hill, Lancaster, Charlotte Metro now in this. And there is also a second warning in the Greensboro area as well. Don't have as good of a radar look at that. Let me see if I can take another radar there. And we haven't forgotten about this either. This is not showing any signs necessarily rotation. It's just a strong storm. It's going to pull down some strong wind gusts here. We go to the alternate radar view here, and again, it's getting close to the Greensboro metro area, but looks like this is going to stay to the north of downtown Greensboro. It's just crossed I-40, about to cross the US 220 here uh, into Summerfield. So again, if you're in that area, if you're in Summerfield, if you're the north side of Greensboro, watch out for some gusty winds and maybe some power outages here over the next little bit. But not too terribly concerned about that one. We've had a 44-mile-an-hour wind gust there in Greensboro at the airport there, but nothing that right now that is verifying the severe thunderstorm warning. So we'll keep an eye on that. As time goes on, we're going to go back down to our storms in Chester County, Chester, Union, and New York. We have this severe thunderstorm warning that continues until 8:45. If you're in Lawrence County, the threat for severe weather has ended for you. If you're in Greenwood County, the threat for severe weather has ended for you. Once this line gets to your east, you're done, and that is all well and good. So Chester up to Charlotte here. So this is really kind of where the most action is, and this is where we have the most concern for potential brief spin-up tornadoes on the edge of the line. We've seen a couple instances tonight where that may have happened. We have damage reports there. Obviously, that's going to be up to the Weather Service to survey that if they choose. But so far, it's just mostly straight line wind. And again, it doesn't matter which way it's moving. Straight line wind can do damage. Twisting wind does damage. It all does its thing. So that's something that we want to watch. That's something that we want people to be aware of. And again, as we tweak the storm motions here, 48 knots, my goodness. I mean, that's so the line segment around Union here is moving northeast at 55. This line segment is moving closer to 65, 70, 75, and just really impressive there. And further south, I mean, this is certainly a decent looking line of thunderstorms, but Columbia has not made the call yet on whether to issue down there. And I'm going to reconfigure some of my radars real quick to make sure I'm showing you guys all the right stuff. How many radars does it take to screw in a light bulb? Well, I think we're about to find out. So let me get to, again, I'm just pulling up a couple additional sources of radar here so we can get a close look at, kind of try and understand what the Weather Service folks are seeing. And let's go to Columbia real quick, because I think this will shed some light on kind of what the situation is as far as some of the things that they're looking at. And there's certainly some kinks in the line here that are interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and take radar scope, and so we're looking at the Columbia radar here, and I think a couple things to note right now is that this area here that's a little that's a kind of anticyclonic, honestly. Anticyclonic there. This is looking a little suspicious here. This is looking a little suspicious here, and this is looking a little suspicious here. And again, this is looking from the Columbia radar. Again, we're getting into that point where the radar situation ain't great as you get closer to I-77, especially as you get into Charlotte. Just the radar situation ain't great, and we've spilled so much ink on that virtually over the years here at the Carolina Weather Group. I won't rehash those issues tonight, but certainly something that we want to keep an eye on here. So I am monitoring we have some updates to the warning. So we're going to go back to, let's go back to the other radar, and I will switch to that. And this is terminal Doppler. And again, one of the things about terminal Doppler is that it doesn't always show you the complete picture as far as rain. The way the wavelength works with it is that it's a different band, and that band absorbs more. It gets more energy absorbed when it goes through heavy rain, and so sometimes we can't see the reflectivity as well. But the whole point is not that, but it is for the wind shear, and that is what this is showing us. But that being said, Union County, you're just about out of it. You have a little bit of warning left, just in kind of like the southeast corner of Union County. Chester right now, kind of main event for you. York, it's past you. Rock Hill, it's coming through right now. Charlotte metro area, very shortly here. Looks like you're about to see some heavy downpours and some gusty winds. Not seeing any signs of rotation, which is good news. But Huntersville, Concord, you're next. Some thunderstorms, kind of maybe even a little bit ahead of the line here, showing up into Concord. So again, that's where our warnings are right now. We just have the 2, and yeah, we'll switch back to this radar, and yeah, we just have the 2 at this point. But again, we're keeping an eye on we're keeping an eye on just if there's any twisting of the wind here, any spin. And again, as we get further away from GSP, we're going to switch radars to Columbia here shortly. We still have a couple areas of shear around Newberry, kind of splitting the difference there with Newberry. So we'll keep an eye on that. Again, no formal warning on this segment of the line right now. Columbia has not elected to extend the warnings further eastward. At this point, that could change. Certainly reserve the right. But yeah, we'll keep a close eye on this, because again, we see a couple of these, just a couple of these areas of suspicion near Silver Street, and again, approaching Saluda as well. So we'll keep an eye on that as time goes on. And again, we go back to the. If we let me do a couple things here real quick. If we go back to the radar scope view. Transition that and go back to radar scope here. Let's stretch that out a little bit more so you guys can see a little bit more there. Cool. Again, I have these areas. This is looking from the Columbia radar, and we have these areas that of suspicion that are circulate, and that little one there, little one there, little one there, little one there, and there. So there's lots of little kinks in the line here that are showing up that Weather Service is going to pay very close attention to. I'll switch back to the reflectivity view there, and again, these beige polygons that show up on radar scope here. This is just one gigantic special weather statement. So this is sub-severe. Bad weather is coming, but it's not warning level bad weather. As kind of the takeaway from that. So you see you can see the line of storms is starting to also get a little bit more of a east-west organization to it as well. Orientation of the line is important. That shows us that as expected, the front and the adjoining low pressure system continues to move to the north and moves away from here. That is going to kind of tweak the orientation of the line and gradually over time diminish the severe weather risk. And again, at this point, the main risk for severe weather is going to be found over the Midlands of South Carolina. Not expecting the severe weather risk to extend too much further. So again, we'll go back out here. We'll go back out to the regional view, and we'll show you the convective outlook. And again, this roughly the Piedmont of North Carolina. And let me I have to make the other change here real quick. Transition that. There we go. So again, mainly the Piedmont of North Carolina down towards Columbia, Augusta. This is where your best risk of damaging wind gust or 2 continues to exist. Right now, no active tornado warnings that we are concerned about. We are continuing to watch a couple kinks in the line. You can see the line as in the satellite view here. We have the line kind of stretching from just roughly around LaGrange, Georgia, up through Charlotte, North Carolina, and then getting into the larger storm system that is currently really much centered over Ohio at this point. Take a look at the water vapor here. You can see that we're starting to see some of that dry air also impinge on this a little bit, and that's going to that dry slot kicks in, and that's going to help. That'll certainly help continue to put the kibosh on anything on a more substantial or widespread severe threat. The winds are impressive. Um, and we'll look at the instability here. You can see taking a couple, here's your surface low right here. Um, and the view that I've got up here is the instability view. And you can see that really not much here. The surface-based instability at this point is becoming very, very marginal as we get further east. So again, the environment that these storms are running into, not terribly favorable for severe weather. So I think what we're going to do, we're going to hang here. I want to hang here for a little bit longer. I want to get these warnings out of here. These 2 severe thunderstorm warnings. Normally we don't do severe thunderstorm warnings, but full disclosure, it's Friday night. I'm bored. We've got some storms, and I want to talk you through them. So we're going to hang around until we can start to see some signs that the severe threat is waning pretty much permanently. Again, we had a tornado watch. That tornado watch is no longer in effect. There are no active tornado warnings. Overall, aside from these areas that could do some straight line winds, straight line wind damage, we are in pretty good shape across the Carolinas, and that is only going to continue to get better as time goes on. Again, we'll get some of this rain through overnight as it gets closer to the coast, but again, the risk for severe weather is dropping. But really, the main story also has just been the winds outside of it. We're still gusting to about 30 miles an hour here at Charleston. We have a wind advisory here until midnight. Seeing gusts, Mount Pleasant near Charleston, 37 miles an hour. Johns Island, 35 miles an hour. So again, some very gusty winds this evening. Can't rule out, some power blips with that sort of thing. You don't need a storm to have power blips, and you just need some strong winds, and that can happen sometimes. So there's your line, stretching roughly from about McCormick at this point. McCormick approaching Saluda right through Newberry, up in Whitmire. Then it kind of breaks up a little bit, and then you get back into Chester. We have a few of these more isolated cells now moving through Rock Hill as well. The wind fields are a little chaotic, not seeing any organized rotation that I'm terribly concerned about. The only area that's really catching me right now is just south of Newberry here. A little bit of an inflow notch trying to show up on radar, and when we go to the rotation product, but this too is weaker than where we were. I'll just kind of lapse it here. Actually, I can do you one better. We can just sum it up, and you can see kind of that progression of the rotation really since it was Calhoun Falls through southern Abbeville County, getting over Greenwood. And you can see that over time, we've seen this kind of weaken. And then the second circulation, kind of broad rotation, so to speak, starting to diminish with eastward extent. So with any luck, we'll continue to see the eastward extent of this calm down. So 8:35 right now. Jared Smith here with Carolina Weather Group. Severe weather coverage. We came on for a tornado warning earlier in Lawrence County that has since long gone at this point. But we're still hanging around to keep an eye on showers and thunderstorms moving through Chester into Rock Hill and Charlotte and Concord, where severe thunderstorm warnings are in effect for storms that are moving at 70, 75 miles an hour, that are capable of producing damaging straight line wind gusts. And there still is a limited threat for maybe a quick spin up tornado at the edge of the line. But that also, as we get closer and closer to basically these storms leaving the best instability, that too is going to begin to wane, and we're really not seeing the numbers that I want to see as far as the numbers that we would want to see as far as stuff that was potentially favorable for additional severe weather. So again, we're going to run into some loss of instability here, and that's going to help weaken this quite nicely. And just taking a look at got a whole bunch of screens here that help me understand and analyze kind of this stuff in real time. So thank you for joining us tonight. And again, if you appreciate what we're doing, if you like what we're doing here, slap us a like, slap us a follow, subscribe, and get your notifications on YouTube for when we go live. We do a weekly show every Wednesday night, and on a variety of topics. You may have been here for rocket launches and things like that. So again, but weather is our thing. It's our main gig is weather, and that's what we're here to do right now. As we have a line of thunderstorms continuing to move across from Chester into the Charlotte metro area. We can get a closer look at Charlotte right now, and it looks like the warning has been trimmed back a little bit. So Gastonia, you're in the clear. Mount Holly, Belmont, those areas, you're in the clear. Huntersville, you're in the clear. Cornelius, you're in the clear. There's a couple line segments here, and I'll switch over to the terminal Doppler here out of Charlotte. And again, keep in mind that this view is a little bit attenuated, where the beam is not strong enough to penetrate as well through heavy rain than, say, the normal NEXRAD Doppler radar. So, known issue, does not affect the efficacy of the velocity data, which still is consistent with straight line winds. Not seeing any signs of any misbehavior here. And again, this is actually looking pretty low at the ground, so we can get a really good look at it very quickly as far as like, hey, what's actually happening down here. And as we tilt up a little bit, we can take a peek a little bit higher up, and we certainly see the strong wind fields, but we don't see anything that is doing anything other than straight line winds. So again, looks like the worst of this is pushing out of the Charlotte metro right now. So again, if you're in the Charlotte metro, the main, kind of uptown here, that'll be diminishing. You're probably seeing it diminishing already. Matthews, Mint Hill, Hickory Grove, you're next in line for this. And so again, you can see some gusty winds, maybe some sporadic power outages. Not many storm reports lately that have come out of it, and I think we're going to start to see some of the Skywarn groups begin to stand down. And again, we're also seeing overall just weakening. It looks. And the thing to keep in mind too is that when we look at the radar, when we look at radar here, we're typically showing you the lowest levels. We're showing you what's near the ground, because that's what you care about. Is it raining on me? That's what you care about. You don't care about what's going on up there necessarily. That's for us to worry about. But we're starting to see there's not been lightning on this for quite a while at this point, when we're starting to see evidence that we're not getting some of those higher cloud tops that we were, and that's a good sign. Again, that's consistent with that's quite consistent with moving into more stable air. So we still have the 2 severe thunderstorm warnings up in the Charlotte metro area for now, but again, I suspect that we'll even start to see these let go here in pretty short order. The warning for Chester, York, and Union will expire at 8:45, so in about 5 minutes. And then the warning that is in Mecklenburg, Cabarrus, and Rowan County, this will expire at 9:15. So we got a little bit more time with this one right now. And then there is a third warning up north of Greensboro, but I don't think this is too much longer for the world either. That also is going to expire at 8:45. So and what I'm seeing here, not really too many signs of damage. There has been looks like there were reports of multiple trees down in Winston-Salem around there. So again, down power lines, down trees, and that's been kind of the scoop with these with the straight line winds. But we're going to hold it here. We'll hold it here a little bit longer. I want to see I want to see how these storms evolve. But again, the overall expectation is that these will continue to weaken as they push eastward. The threat for severe weather diminishing quickly in many spots. We still have the 2 active warnings, but beyond that, we're looking pretty good. Just maybe a rainy night for some of y'all. Certainly a windy night for a lot of us. That wind is going to continue through about midnight or so, and then it should gradually begin to die down as that strong low pressure pulls away. And I'll go back to it's kind of a dense view. I apologize, but I mean, this is the good stuff, right? This is stuff they don't show you on TV necessarily. And this is why you come to us. So here's your surface low right here. And you can see how chilly it is up in Ohio. and I've also got the 850 millibar winds up, and that's about 5,000 feet up off the ground. Um, and you can see we have, and you can see there's certainly some strong, some stronger winds aloft here. But as we lose the heating into the day, we're going to be less able to tap into that, and that's the main concern, is that we're just going to be less able to tap into that. And really, the only the instability here is continuing to wane. Um, Tree blocking the roadway, 3,200 block of Carver Place in Charlotte. So again, we are still seeing wind damage from this, but you can see that parent low continues to move to the northeast, dragging a trailing cold front, although it's really not much of one as far as an air mass change goes. I can even, let's do I got the mesofill up. Okay, cool. Well, let's look at dew points real fast, and you can see there's kind of see the front based off of the dew points right here. There's going to be a second round of cooling that'll come in overnight Saturday. But yeah, here's a warm front here. Here's a cold front there. And this will continue to push eastward over time. Still, I mean, if we look at we're looking at, let's look at temperatures here for a minute. We're still holding, close to 80, right out ahead of the line here. We still have 80 at Sylvania, Georgia, which is impressive. Cooling off at Charleston, 74, 72 at Mount Pleasant, 72 at Monk's Corner, 68 at Myrtle Beach. That sea breeze influence is certainly being felt there. 73 at Beaufort. Getting closer to Wilmington, 76 at Wilmington there. Meanwhile, Brunswick County closer to the water, 69 degrees. So again, you have your warm front up here. Really not a lot of wind energy to be concerned about there. Really not seeing that again, we're not getting that northward extent of instability. It's just a somewhat warmer air mass at this point. And again, as these temperatures continue to fall, severe weather threat will continue to wane, and that is all good. That is all good things. And we like to talk about good things here. So thank you to whoever is empinging rain furiously in South Mecklenburg. We see you and we salute you. And meanwhile, we still have gusty winds. Now, and again, there's no warning on the storms around Newberry or Saluda or Edgefield or anything like that. But that's not to say that these won't pack a decent punch. Some very heavy rain. Blinding rain could be dangerous on the roads, especially in some of those, more back roads there, where there's not a lot of light. There's up here in the upstates, this part of the upstate's a little bit more rural, hard to see at night. Oftentimes you have to, fire up your brights, and again, the expectation is that we're not going to necessarily see maybe the severe threshold 58 miles an hour or greater. Certainly not expecting quarter size hail at this point. And the tornado risk is withering away as we lose surface based instability as the surface becomes more stable. It becomes much harder to get any thunderstorms behind it. Behind the line, we're still seeing a few showers pop up from time to time, but again, this is the worst of the weather, and be moving through rather quickly. The cold front is the cold front is trailing back in Georgia, and you can see this is outrunning that a little bit. But yeah, 79 and still 79. Famously hot Columbia. Wind south at 24, gusting to 34 there. So. Yeah, and famously hot Columbia is living up to its name, even in early March. So what it looks like, we have, all right. So as expected, the severe thunderstorm warning that included York, Chester, counties there, that has been allowed to expire. So we have one warning left in the Charlotte metro, and we have, and really, the only other warning on the board at this point takes in a very small sliver of northern Stokes and Rockingham counties in North Carolina, but is primarily centered around Martinsville. So not too worried about that. We'll let the Virginia Weather Group. I don't think they exist, but if they do, we'll let them handle it if the need arises. And again, that severe threat is diminishing quickly. as much of the worst of the weather now is getting east of the Charlotte metro. Again, we're looking from we're looking from GSP here. I'm going to switch our perspective from on this radar here. Switch that to Columbia, and that may not be the best thing for looking at Charlotte. We still have the terminal Doppler there. Again, when we get into this part of the world, we have to kind of ping pong back and forth between radars because it's hard for us to see. It's just where the beam just gets too high in that part of the world because there's not we could you use an 88D right in here and it just doesn't exist. So we do the best we can with what we have. And that's all we can do. But you can see the sharp wind shift here along the line here. There's your edge of your squall line right there, and you can see that really sharp wind shift showing up on radar there. And there'll be some gusty winds as this comes through. But again, the expectation now, there are no active, and I think the other part too is there are no active severe weather watches or warnings in the state of South Carolina. So if you're in South Carolina, if you're in the state of South Carolina, you're fine. We'll see what this line does, but I suspect that we're going to probably be okay. We'll go back to the Charlotte local view here, and see the storms are now getting into Matthews, Mint Hill. There's your wind shift right there. Again, along the line, no sign of any. We don't have that the reds and the greens coming tightly together to form that rotation. We're not seeing that. Not seeing any of that. So that is extremely good news. Uptown Charlotte, you have some additional showers moving in, but at this point, your threat for severe weather is pretty much over. They'll probably rebox this one more time before it expires. This large warning here, this warning goes until 9:15. So it's 8:49 right now. As I say this, latency being a thing with streaming, that can sometimes you look at your clock and it's like, hey, wait a second. But no, but as of me saying this, for the time for this to travel the speed of light, it was 8:49, and we still have this warning until 9:15. But I do expect that this is going to get reboxed again. Uptown Charlotte, I think you're in good shape. Huntersville, you've been in good shape. Cornelius, in good shape. Kannapolis is coming through right now. Concord, Harrisburg, down to Matthews. So again, this is continuing to move east very quickly, 70, 75 miles an hour. That's the forward motion. That's not the wind speeds necessarily, but that's the forward motion. That's how quickly these are moving. That's how strong the wind fields are aloft. Tapping into a very strong 850 millibar, about 5,000 foot jet, a little low level jet action there. And this is definitely pushing east, but I don't think we're going to have, again, you're going to see some potentially some maybe some down trees and power lines. We're getting another report, tree down on the power line, the 1,000 block of Wilkeshire and Charlotte. And again, as we expected, the warning has been reboxed. So there's a very small warning now. So if you're in Harrisburg, Concord, Kannapolis, your severe weather threat, the concern for severe weather in your area is over. We're going to maintain the warning here just for far eastern Mecklenburg. So Matthews, Mint Hill, the primary suspects here until 9:15, and this is going to continue to move, and we may even see this warning get canceled early. And once this warning goes, I think at this point, once this warning goes, I think we'll be able to call it good here for this edition of severe weather coverage on the Carolina Weather Group. So again, thank you all for watching. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for speaking, for sending your reports, what you're seeing. That stuff is all helpful. And if you know of any damage, if you know of any issues, please don't hesitate to speak up and chat, and we'll be happy to relay your reports to the Weather Service. As I'm just continuing to look at satellite data, radar data, all sorts of input coming in. If you ever saw a short circuit, input Johnny 5, he don't disassemble, loves input, and we weather people certainly love our input. So again, stretching from the South Carolina North Carolina border up to Matthews, Mint Hill, this is where we're going to be most concerned for damaging wind gusts for the next little bit. I do think, based on the fact that they've not extended the warnings downstream, they're canceling to the north. This could very well, unless something gets a little bit more vigorous briefly, we may be getting close to done for the night as far as warnings go, and that would be a very good thing. That is ideal. Again, we have no, aside from in the state of South Carolina, we have no active severe weather watches or warnings. You have some wind advisories, and you're going to see some gusty winds and some heavy rain as this line gets through. But we have no active severe weather warnings or watches in the state of South Carolina. And this is really, for all intents and purposes, this is the only game in town in North Carolina. Rowan and Mecklenburg counties, further to the north. No, not Rowan. I'm getting that confused here. But like when we get into like Rockingham counties, and there's a small sliver in the box here that for a storm that's primarily affecting Martinsville. We'll switch to FCX real quick so we can take a close look at that. Take a closer look at that. And that's a decent storm around Martinsville. But again, I don't think the threat for severe weather within the southern extent of this box. I think Blacksburg is going to probably trim that back before too long. So again, the main event is really the main area of concern for any severe weather at this point, based on the warnings from the National Weather Service, stretches from Matthews to Mint Hill. Again, we've had some reports of power lines, trees and power lines down with this line in the Charlotte metro area as it's come through. So again, something to keep on guard for. You may have some power outages. Keep a flashlight handy. Not the end of the world. This is not getting in your basement. This is not any of that, and so that's good news. None of that. We'll take a little bit of a wider view, looking from the Columbia radar, under storm analyst here, and again we have kind of a broken line of storms, and this is certainly not as impressive as it was a little while ago. We had a couple tornado warnings along this line. We had some kinks on the line that were showing some rotation, some potential for tornadoes. That has since weakened considerably, especially as the line takes on a more east to west orientation. The shear vectors just don't line up as well at that point, and it's just not ideal for that. And we're losing instability. We're losing we're losing instability. We're losing daytime heating. So we're gonna have some pockets of heavy rain, but the one thing you're not seeing on here is any lightning. There's no lightning, and so without lightning, that gives us an indication the convection that's driving these storms is not really vigorous. So yeah, no lightning is a good thing. We like to see that. And again, the only area of concern is really in the southeastern part of the Charlotte metro area at this point in Mecklenburg County. Back to the local radar view here. You see that wind shift is now, and that's it. So the Weather Service has canceled the warning for Mecklenburg. Yeah, that about does it. So the warning for Mecklenburg has been canceled, off the board. So we'll go take a look at the regional view one more time, kind of give you the bigger picture before we depart here. Again, we have a thin line of showers. Can't call them thunderstorms. There's no lightning. There's a thin line of showers now moving through Macon, Georgia. Be approaching Columbia in the next hour. Moving through the Charlotte metro right now, about to clear the Charlotte metro. And again, some of the stronger convection is now being found in Virginia. And so again, if there's a Virginia weather group, they can handle it. They've got this. But otherwise, here in the Carolinas, no more severe weather warnings or watches or anything like that. And I don't expect that we're going to see any more tonight. I think at this point, if there's going to be any warning, it's going to be well into further north into North Carolina. I think the major metros at this point, I think your severe weather threat is pretty much over at this juncture. So again, we'll keep an eye on it here, but at this point, again, with no tornado warnings on the board, no severe thunderstorm warnings on the board, we're going to go ahead and conclude our coverage, our severe weather coverage here tonight. Come back up if we need to, but other than that, I think we're going to be in pretty good shape. So on behalf of the entire Carolina Weather Group, I'm Jared Smith. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing and sharing. Definitely Wednesday nights, we do a show here. It's pretty good. We do space and technology all across the Carolinas. So again, be sure to hit that notification button, that subscribe button, so you know when we come up, and follow us on social media as well. Carolina Weather Group, wherever you may partake of your fine social media. So thank you all so much, and have a lovely evening, and hopefully we don't talk to you again